For most Australians, a good accountant is exactly the right professional. Returns lodged, BAS handled, payroll running smoothly. But there is a category of tax problem that looks like an accounting issue and is actually a legal one. And treating a legal problem with a compliance solution is how small matters become expensive disputes. I am Benedict Youn, tax lawyer at Australian Tax Experts. In this presentation, I will give you 5 clear signs that your situation calls for legal expertise and explain what a tax lawyer actually adds that an accountant, however capable, cannot.
4 markers frame what follows. 5. The signs we will walk through. A formal audit notice, a disputed assessment, international complexity, significant penalties, and the sentence, "Nothing can be done." LPP, legal professional privilege, the protection that only legal advice attracts. Communications with your lawyer sit beyond the reach of the ATO's compulsory information gathering powers. Advice from your accountant does not. 75%, the top penalty rate for intentional disregard, and a reminder that how your conduct is characterized is a legal question worth arguing. And 60, the days you have to take a disallowed objection to the Administrative Review Tribunal. Legal deadlines run through every stage of a tax dispute, and they are unforgiving.
Let us be clear about the division of labour, because this is not a criticism of accountants. Accountants own compliance, the returns, the BAS, the payroll, the financial analysis, the everyday machinery of the tax system, and most of them run it very well. Tax lawyers own something different: disputes and legal risk, statutory powers and their limits, legal argument, privilege, litigation strategy, a separate discipline with separate training. The mistake is not choosing the wrong professional. It is not recognizing when the problem has crossed from one territory into the other. And the best outcomes in serious matters almost always come from both disciplines working together on one file. Which is, incidentally, exactly how our firm is built. Sign 1. A formal ATO audit notice has arrived. Understand what that letter really is: the commencement of a legal process. The ATO exercises broad statutory powers in an audit, and everything you provide and everything you say can have binding legal consequences. An accountant can gather the records and explain the numbers, but audit strategy is legal work, knowing the limits of the ATO's powers, framing the evidence, and building a position designed to withstand scrutiny. And there is a structural advantage most taxpayers never hear about: legal professional privilege. Advice from a lawyer is protected from the ATO's compulsory powers. Advice from an accountant is not. It is covered only by a limited concession the ATO itself administers. In serious audits, fraud or evasion allegations, offshore income, major penalties, legal representation from the outset is not optional. Sign 2. You disagree with an ATO assessment. The objection that challenges it is not a letter of complaint. It is a legal document, and it succeeds or fails on legal craftsmanship. A winning objection identifies the specific legal errors in the assessment, cites the legislation and the case law, and connects the factual evidence to the legal argument. Explaining the numbers is necessary. It is nowhere near sufficient. And think one move ahead. If the objection is disallowed, the matter goes to the Administrative Review Tribunal, which replaced the old AAT in October 2024, or the Federal Court, generally within 60 days. You will certainly need a lawyer then. But the outcome at that stage is heavily shaped by the foundation laid in the objection, which is why the legal expertise belongs at the start of the dispute, not the end. Sign 3. Your affairs cross a border. International tax is one of the most technically demanding areas of the law because you are never dealing with one system. You are dealing with the interaction of at least 2, plus the double tax treaty that referees between them. Foreign income, tax residency, offshore trusts, cross-border transactions, transfer pricing, each engages Australian domestic law, the foreign system, and treaty obligations simultaneously, and it is the interactions, not the individual rules, that decide outcomes. An accountant without specific international training will often be out of their depth here through no fault of their own. Add the fact that cross-border matters typically involve the largest amounts at stake, and the case for specialist legal analysis makes itself. Sign 4. The ATO is proposing substantial penalties. Here is what makes penalties legal territory. The rate turns entirely on how your conduct is characterized. 25% of the shortfall for a failure to take reasonable care, 50% for recklessness, 75% for intentional disregard. Those labels are legal conclusions, and they can be contested, with the difference worth enormous sums on a large shortfall. Remission is the same. An application to reduce penalties engages the ATO's published guidelines, the reasonableness of your conduct, and the evidence supporting your circumstances. That is advocacy, not arithmetic, a case to be built, not a form to be filled in. Where the penalties are large, a structured legal submission consistently outperforms an unstructured request and pays for itself many times over. Sign 5 is the most common of all. Your accountant has told you the ATO's position is correct and there is nothing more to be done. Sometimes that is true, but a striking proportion of our work begins exactly there. A client arrives with a final answer, and our legal analysis finds a genuine argument that was never raised. That is not a failing of the accountant. Tax law spans legislation, regulations, rulings, and a vast body of case law, and compliance training is simply not designed to surface litigable legal arguments, the residency point, the procedural defect, the mischaracterized conduct. So here is the practical rule. If you have been told nothing can be done and the outcome feels wrong, get a second opinion from a specialist tax lawyer. It is cheap insurance against an expensive acceptance. Let me draw the threads together. 4 things the legal discipline adds to a tax matter. First, privilege. Your communications and advice protected from the ATO's compulsory information gathering powers, so you can take frank advice about your worst case position without creating evidence against yourself. Second, boundaries. The ATO's statutory powers have legal limits, and a lawyer recognizes when conduct exceeds them and says so formally. Third, argument. Legislation, rulings, and case law assembled into a case that withstands scrutiny, rather than an explanation that invites it. And fourth, litigation readiness. Every position built from day one so that, if it comes to it, it can be defended at the Administrative Review Tribunal or in court. The ATO takes positions differently when it knows the other side is ready to go the distance. None of this means choosing lawyers instead of accountants. The strongest matters use both in harness. The accountants reconstruct the numbers, quantifying positions, rebuilding records, testing the ATO's calculations line by line. The tax lawyers frame the arguments, the legal grounds, the privilege, the strategy. And when the two work together on one file, with one strategy, nothing falls into the gap between the professions. The number that needed a legal argument gets one, and the argument that needed a number gets one too. That is how Australian tax experts is deliberately built. Tax lawyers and accountants on every matter, so no argument, legal or financial, is left on the table. So, practically, if an audit letter has arrived, we provide audit defense, legal strategy and privilege in place from the first response, not retrofitted after something has gone wrong. If you are disputing an assessment, we run objections and appeals, the legal argument built early and carried through to the Administrative Review Tribunal or the Federal Court, if that is what it takes. And if you have been told nothing can be done, we offer second opinions, testing that conclusion against the legislation and the case law, and telling you honestly whether we see a path. Whichever of the 5 signs brought you here, the first conversation is confidential, and it is the cheapest step in the whole process. If you recognized your situation in any of these 5 signs, contact Australian tax experts today. Our team of specialist tax lawyers and accountants will make sure no argument is left unexplored. Visit australiantaxexperts.com.au/contact. Thanks for watching, And remember, this presentation is general information only, not personal tax or legal advice.